everyone, thank you for joining me to a new video by Original Video Reviews. As you can see, we have here a new package, and as always we're going to find out together what's inside and how to use this thing. So let's not waste any time, let me grab the Swiss knife. Here is the Swiss knife, and we're going to unpackage this thing. Well guys and girls, especially the girls, what we have here is a USB controller, but it's not just a controller. This is a replica of the beloved Super Nintendo, which was one of the two most successful 4th generation game consoles back in the 90s. For me, it's a brilliant time to make a video review about the Super Nintendo controller because I consider myself as a child of the 80s and the early 90s, and today everyone goes crazy about the Pokemon Go mania, which is also by Nintendo, and I feel like an outsider because I was a bit too old for the Pokemon in the late 90s, and this gamepad is much more attractive to me than the Pokemon Go. I would like to give you a brief introduction, or let's call it a lesson in history, about the Super Nintendo, which was named in Japan Super Famicom, which is a short for family computer. This 16-bit game console was released on November 21st, 1990 until it was officially discontinued on 2003, and overall it sold 49.1 million units worldwide. I must admit that I never owned the Super Nintendo, so when I wanted to play with it, I either had to go and visit a friend who had this game console, or I had to go to the mall to play with it in a store that offered free gameplay. So for me, getting this controller is a small compensation for this childhood memory. This game controller is almost identical to the original Super Nintendo game controller. The differences are that the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo logos are missing from the front panel. The color of this replica seems to be a bit darker compared to the original Super Nintendo controller, and that this replica has a USB connection and not the connection that would fit the original Super Nintendo game console. This game controller is made from plastic that feels quite light, but still it's firm, yet I'm quite sure that it has a different feeling compared to the original controller, but still it is not something that you cannot get used to. It has those familiar rounded edges. On the left it has the D-pad, which is a short for directional pad with 4 directions, up, down, left and right, but if you press the diagonals it will work, so it actually goes 8 ways, aka octagonal gamepad. On the right side there are 4 buttons, A, B, X and Y, each with a different color in a diamond formation. On the shoulders of the controller there are the L and R buttons left and right, which, believe it or not, were imitated since then by many controllers. I read about this on Wikipedia. The Japanese Super Famicom and the PAL Super Nintendo had 4 colored buttons, while the NTSC model, which was sold in the North American market, had A and B buttons colored purple, while the X and Y buttons were colored lavender. Another interesting fact about the Super Nintendo controller is that the inclusion of the 6 active buttons, excluding the start and select buttons, was influenced by the popularity of the Street Fighter arcade series, which utilized 6 buttons. So if you will ever have to answer a trivia question about how many buttons had the Super Nintendo game controller, you should know that the answer is 8. Let's talk about the gameplay experience with this controller. So I spent several hours Okay, I admit I spent several days on this thing, and I can tell you that this USB controller offers a great retro gameplay experience. I played with it Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, and the original Mortal Kombat, and Final Fight, which had only 1 character on the Super Nintendo version because this game was too big for the game cartridge back in the days, and NBA Jam, and Gradius 2, and WrestleFest, which is the best wrestling game of all time. By the way, what are your favorite video games of all time? Comment on this video and let me know about it. All the games that I just mentioned, I have them on my computer, so if you're looking for a great emulator to play with those games, I can recommend you about Memi32, which I downloaded about 10 years ago, but I think that today you might have better options, and I invite you to tell me about it by commenting on this video. When you're gonna start playing with this controller, I guess that you will have to define properly the buttons, but after you will do that, I believe that you will start reviving those feelings from the past, and it will feel very very intuitive for those of you who used to play the Super Nintendo 25 years ago. I can't believe that I said that it was 25 years ago, holy crap. For those of you who might be mad at me for not showing me playing those games on my computer using this controller, it's not because I'm embarrassed about my gaming skills. YouTube's policy is that you should own all the rights to the content on your video, and I'm not sure about displaying those games on my video review since it might cause a copyright infringement and it will disqualify this video by YouTube. And my motto in this situation is that if there's even the slightest doubt about something, then I prefer not to ruin my good relationship with YouTube. So I hope that I made myself clear about that. Let's summarize things. This controller is a great item that every collector and video game fan should consider purchasing because of the following. It shouldn't cost you more than $5. The build quality is good and it seems durable. You just plug this controller to your computer and start to play. There's no need to install any drivers. You don't need the old game console in order to revive the experience of playing the Super Nintendo. And there are so many games that you can play with this thing, not just those that were designated for the Super Nintendo. Well, guys and girls, especially the girls, this was my video review about the USB replica of the Super Nintendo controller. For further information about this item, please check the description to this video. If you still have any more questions about this item, please comment on this video and I will do my best to come up with an answer. If this video review was helpful and you enjoyed watching it, I invite you to like this video. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channels, Original Video Reviews, OVR Fashion, and OVR Kids that I recently launched. And there's the Facebook page, and the Google Plus page, and the Twitter account, and the Instagram account, so there are plenty of ways for you to follow Original Video Reviews. I would like to thank you for watching another great video by Original Video Reviews. Until next time, bye bye.